you ever wondered how the Stoics, those teachers of calm and reason, could understand people in such a deep and precise way? Imagine for a moment that by looking at someone you can understand not only what they say, but what they really think, feel, and fear. It is not about reading minds, but about refining your perception, training your intuition, and applying philosophical principles that allow you to connect with the essence of people. And that, my friend, is what the Stoics did masterfully. In this video, we will explore 7 Stoic lessons that you can apply to read people better. Each of these lessons is like a piece of a puzzle that, when you put them together, gives you a clearer and more complete vision of who surrounds you. First lesson: observe without prejudice. Self-control as a key to understanding others. Look, the first lesson I want to share with you is basic, but at the same time tremendously powerful. Observe without prejudice. It seems simple, right? But let me tell you something. Most of the time when we interact with someone, we already have a movie set up in our head about who we think they are, what they think, or what they are going to do. And you know what happens? Those prejudices act as a filter that prevents us from seeing reality. This is where Stoicism comes into play with force. Epictetus said, "It's not the things that worry us, but the opinions we have about them." And this applies perfectly when it comes to reading people. If your opinions and prejudices are already in the way, you're never going to really understand someone. To observe without prejudice, you first need to master your own emotions. Why? Because if you're stuck in your impulses or reactions, is like trying to look through a dirty glass. For example, if someone is talking to you in a tone that feels aggressive, it's easy to get defensive right away. But if instead of reacting, you simply observe, you may find that the person isn't angry with you, but is dealing with something personal. The Stoics teach us that self-control is the first step to understanding nature of things, including people. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The mind adapted to reason can see things as they really are." In other words, when you stay calm and control your emotions, you have the ability to see beyond appearances and get to the bottom of what someone is showing. Then how can we apply this lesson to read people better? Here are some practical steps that they are inspired by Stoicism. Listen more, talk less. When you're with someone, make a conscious effort to listen without interrupting or thinking about what you're going to respond. Most people reveal more than they think when you give them space to talk. Neutralize your initial emotions before reacting. Pause if you feel anger, anxiety, or even enthusiasm. Take a moment to acknowledge it and let it settle. This will allow you to observe from a calm position. Ask open questions instead of assuming a question. Don't underestimate the power of a good question. Something as simple as why you believe that can open the door to a deeper understanding. Look at the details. Gestures, facial expressions, and body language are like a secret language. When you are not distracted by your own judgments, you can notice things that you previously overlooked, as a change in tone of voice or a slight movement of the hands. Reflect after the encounter. The Stoics talked a lot about the importance of reflection after an interaction. Ask yourself, what I noticed, what I could have understood better. This helps you hone your ability for future situations. Why this lesson is crucial, I tell you like this: if you can't see people as they are, but only through the lens of your judgments, you will always miss something important. When you learn to observe without prejudice, not only do you read others better, but you also give them the gift of being seen and understood. This creates more authentic connections and allows you to interact in a wiser and more effective way. In addition, this practice helps you avoid misunderstandings and unnecessary conflicts. When we react from our prejudices, we tend to act impulsively and then regret it, but at the same time we do not understand them. Control your emotions and observe with clarity. You become a more conscious, more focused, and yes, more stoic person. Second lesson: empathy as a tool to understand others. Now let's go to the second lesson, and this is one of those that can completely change how you relate to people. Empathy. But before going into details, I want you to think about this. How many times have you really tried to put yourself in your shoes of someone else? Not to judge, but to understand their perspective. Probably mind. Not as many as you think. True. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, wrote, "When you judge another, don't forget that you too have been in their place, or could be." This reminder not only takes you down from the pedestal of judgment, but also opens the door to a deeper understanding of those around you. What really is empathy? Empathy is not simply feeling what others feel. Is something deeper. It is understanding why someone feels, thinks, or acts in a certain way. Is to look beyond words and actions, to understand the story, emotions, and experiences behind it. For example, imagine that someone at your job is constantly irritable and seems to like nothing. It's easy to label that person as difficult or negative. But what if instead, you wonder what's happening to it? What burden is it carrying that I don't see? That simple change of focus is empathy in action. Well, now let's get to the practical part, because let's go. Empathy is not something you simply decide to have overnight. It's a muscle you need to exercise. Here are some Stoic-inspired steps to develop it. Make the conscious effort to listen without judging. If this is harder than it seems many times while someone is talking to us, we are already thinking about what we are going to answer, or we are labeling what Seneca said, the one who listens learns more than the one who speaks. So stop your critical mind and simply listen. Recognize that everyone has an internal battle. Marco Aurelio wrote, if someone hurts you, remember that they are acting according to what they think good for him. That doesn't mean that you justify bad actions, but it does mean that you understand that everyone acts from their own logic based on their experience and context. Observe the emotions behind the words. People often say things that don't exactly reflect what they feel. Pay attention to nonverbal cues. They are nervous, frustrated, sad. This can give you clues about what is really going on. Question with curiosity, not with the intention of correct. Instead of saying something like why you always do this, try something more neutral, like how this makes you feel. The key is to show genuine interest instead of criticizing. Practice compassion towards yourself. This may sound strange, but if you're not kind to yourself, it's hard to be kind to others. The Stoics believed in acknowledging our own imperfections as a way to be more understanding of others. You realize that you also make mistakes. You become less rigid when judging others. Why empathy helps you read people better? Let me say it sure. If you can develop empathy, you can connect with the true essence of people. Empathy allows you to see beyond the masks we all wear and understand what drives someone. This not only improves your relationships, but also makes you wiser in your decisions. For example, if you understand that someone is acting from fear instead of anger, your response will be completely different and much more effective. In addition, empathy helps you avoid unnecessary conflicts. Many times fights and misunderstandings arise because we rush to judge without trying to understand. But when you have the ability to see things from the point of view of the other, you can find solutions that before they seemed impossible. Finally, and this is important, empathy humanizes you. We live in a world where many interactions are superficial and fast, but being one of those people who really listens and understands others is like being an oasis in the middle of the desert. Third lesson, actions speak louder than words. Well, we have already talked about observing without prejudice and developing empathy, but now we are going to touch on a point. How many times have you heard someone say something that just doesn't match what they do? That dissonance between words and actions is an open window to understand someone in depth. Epictetus said, "Don't talk to me about your principles. Show me how you live." And it's that words can be manipulated, embellished, or even used to cover up the truth. But rare actions, once they lie, that's where you can find the essence of who someone really is. The Stoics were masters at analyzing human behavior. For them, our actions are the direct result of our values, intentions, and beliefs. Marco Aurelio reflected in his meditations that the character of a man is seen in what he pursues, in how he acts, when he believes that no one is watching. For example, someone can say that he values honesty, but yes, constantly manipulate situations to their advantage. What do you think matters most, their words or their behavior? Actions are like a roadmap into people's hearts and minds. Now let's get to the practical. Here are some steps to train your ability to observe people's actions and understand what they are really saying. With look at patterns, not exceptions. An isolated action doesn't define a person, but a pattern does. If someone repeats the same type of behavior in different contexts, there you have a solid clue about their true priorities. Look at small actions, not just big deeds. Often small gestures are more revealing than big ones. For example, someone can make a public donation to charity to win recognition, but try to see how he treats the waiter in a restaurant or how he behaves with his family. There is his true nature. Ask what I would do in his place. This is not to judge, but to compare how you would react to a similar situation. If someone does something that seems strange to you, try to think about their possible reasoning and context. This will help you better understand their decisions. Pay attention to how they act under pressure. The The true nature of people usually comes to light in difficult moments. As I said, Sika, adversity is the touchstone of character. If someone is generous, brave, or selfish in a complicated situation that speaks louder than any speech you can give, do not ignore incongruities. If someone's actions constantly contradict what they say, do not overlook it. That incongruity is a sign that something doesn't fit. It's not about confronting, but about observing carefully and adjusting your expectations. Watch. This lesson not only helps you understand others, but also protects you when you learn to read actions instead of blindly trusting words. You're less likely to be disappointed. How many times do we get carried away by what someone promises, only to realize later that I didn't intend to fulfill it? If you observe the actions, you can foresee these situations and make more informed decisions. In addition, this lesson also helps you to be more authentic to yourself. By being attentive to the actions of others, you inevitably begin to question yourself. My actions are aligned with my values, and when you make that effort, you become a more coherent and reliable person. In summary, this third lesson is like a detector of truths, helps you distinguish between what people want you to believe and what they really are, and that's pure gold in any kind of relationship, whether it's personal or professional. Fourth lesson, body language reveals what words hide. Now we're entering fascinating terrain. Body language. Has ever happened to you that someone says something to you, but you feel like there's something that doesn't add up? Maybe it's a strange tone of voice, an awkward posture, or a look that avoids yours. This is because our body speaks even when we want it to remain silent. Epictetus said, external are a reflection of the internal state, and he is absolutely right. Often what someone cannot express with words, his body shouts in silence. The key is in learning to listen is nonverbal language. The body is incapable of lying, while words can be careful and planned. Movements, gestures, and expressions are automatic responses that reveal what we really feel or think. For example, someone who claims to be relaxed but keeps their shoulders tense and crosses their arms constantly is sending contradictory signals. That's where you, with your Stoic observation skills, can pick up those clues. Well, here comes the practical part. Because understanding body language doesn't mean become a fortune teller, but a more attentive observer. Let's break down a few key points. Look at the overall posture. The way someone stands or sits says a lot about their emotional state. An upright and open posture indicates confidence, while a hunched or closed one can reflect insecurity, anxiety, or even disinterest. Pay attention to hands and feet. Restless hands that constantly touch their face or that hide in pockets can be signs of nervousness. Feet, although we ignore them, are just as important. If someone's feet are pointing towards the exit, they could be looking to end the conversation. Eye contact says it all. As it said, a man's gaze reveals the truth that his words try to hide. If someone avoids eye contact or holds it too long, it may be indicating discomfort, insecurity, or even manipulation. Observe microgestures. These are small facial expressions that occur in fractions of a second. Although they are difficult to pick up, a slight frown or smile that disappears quickly can reveal hidden emotions. Look for congruence between words and body. If someone tells you that they are happy but their tone of voice is flat and their movements are rigid, is probably not entirely sincere. Congruence is key to detect if someone is being genuine. Knowing how to read body language not only allows you to understand people better, but also anticipate situations. For example, if you notice that someone is uncomfortable in a conversation, you can soften the tone or change the subject before it becomes a conflict. It also helps you connect with others in a deeper way. When you recognize what someone is feeling through their body language, you can show empathy and adjust your behavior so that the other person feels understood. As Marcus Aurelius said, adapt to the circumstances and you will be like water, capable of flowing and embracing any form. But there is something more to it. Becoming more aware of the body language of others, you inevitably begin to notice your own. This gives you the opportunity to adjust how you present yourself to the world, aligning your words with your gestures to convey confidence, sincerity, and serenity. In a nutshell, body language is like an extra tool in your Stoic skill box for reading people. So put it into practice and watch how everything starts to make more sense. Fifth lesson. Values are reflected in priorities. This lesson is like having a magnifying glass to look at people's hearts. Someone's values are always reflected in their priorities, and here it is where Stoicism gives us a great advantage. The Stoics were obsessive in understanding what really matters in life, because they knew that our actions and decisions always revolve around what we value the most. Marcus Aurelius said, "Everyone lives according to the object of their devotion." What does this mean? That what someone prioritizes in their life tells you exactly what matters most to them without needing to. Someone else says it acts as a compass that points directly to their core values. For example, if someone is constantly working overtime, they probably place a high value on professional success or financial stability. On the other hand, if they dedicate quality time to their family, even if they have a busy schedule, their priorities reflect a value more oriented towards affection and personal relationships. This is crucial to understanding people, because many times we are not aware of what we prioritize until someone else notices it, and there you are watching with the patience and wisdom of a Stoic. Now let's go to the practical terrain. How can you decipher someone's priorities and therefore their values? Here are some steps. Look at how they use their time. Time is the most valuable resource we all have, and how someone invests it says a lot about their priorities. Ask yourself, what does this person spend the most time on? In what situations are they willing to make sacrifices? Listen to what they often mention. People tend to talk a lot about what they value. If someone always talks about their work achievements, they probably value ambition. If they constantly mention their friends or family, it is an indication that human relationships are important to them. Observe their habits. A person's daily habits are a direct reflection of their priorities. For example, someone who starts the day with exercise shows that they value health and discipline. Someone who spends their mornings meditating or praying shows that their life is spiritually oriented. Pay attention to what they passionately stand for. When people feel that something important to them is being questioned, they tend to react strongly. This can give you a very clear clue. It's what they really value. Notice what they choose in conflict situations. Priorities are revealed especially when there are difficult decisions. For example, if someone chooses to spend time with their family instead of taking on a lucrative but demanding project, they're showing where their values lie. Why this lesson is key to reading people. When you understand someone's priorities, it's like being handed a map of their inner world. This allows you to anticipate their decisions, understand their reactions, and most importantly, build a more genuine connection. For example, if you know that someone values honesty very much, you will be careful to communicate clearly and sincerely with that person. In addition, this knowledge helps you avoid unnecessary conflicts. Many times disagreements arise because our values do not coincide with those of others. But by understanding what really matters to the other, if you can find common ground or at least respect their priorities without imposing yours. Finally, and here's the interesting thing, this lesson also invites you to reflect on your own priorities. Marco Aurelio always said that we should constantly examine ourselves. Ask yourself, what do my priorities reveal about my values? I'm being consistent with what I say that I value. This not only helps you grow, but also makes you a better observer. So the next time you're interacting with someone, take note of their priorities. I assure you that you will discover things that you have never noticed before. Sixth lesson. The words that someone chooses are a window into their way of thinking. Here we come to one of the most powerful tools to understand people. The words, yes, those same ones that we hear every day but that we often overlook. What a person says and how they say it can reveal more than you imagine about their way of thinking, their emotions, and even their fears. Close with their wisdom, so precise, she said, speak so that she knows you. And it is that our words are like mirrors that reflect our interior. You have realized how words can be loaded with emotions, intentions, and priorities, because that is where you must start paying attention. Words are not just sounds or letters, they are vehicles of meaning. When someone chooses specific words, they are leaving clues about how they perceive the world. For example, someone who consistently uses negative terms such as always, never, or impossible may be showing a more pessimistic mindset. On the other hand, those who use expressions such as challenge rather than problem are likely to have a more positive and proactive approach. In addition, words also reflect the level of attention and respect someone has towards others. People who carefully choose how they express themselves are usually more aware of its effects on others, while those who are brusque or dismissive may be acting out of insecurity or disinterest. Here are some practical tips inspired by Stoicism to decode what a person's words really mean. Listen to the tone and rhythm, not only what they say, but how they say it. A calm and leisurely tone can indicate self-control, while a hurried or aggressive one could reflect anxiety or impatience. Notice language patterns. People tend to use certain words or phrases repeatedly. If you notice that someone frequently uses expressions such as I care, I should, or it is unfair, you can identify what occupies their mind. Most often pay attention to qualifiers, words that a person uses to describe things or people say a lot about their values. If someone talks about others as inspiring, hardworking, or loyal, it is likely that they value those qualities. If they use terms such as lazy, problematic, or annoying, may be reflecting a more critical approach that observes silences and omissions. Sometimes what someone doesn't say is just as revealing as what they say. If a person avoids certain topics or uses vague words, they could be trying to protect themselves or avoid something uncomfortable. Of themselves, they reveal their self-esteem and self-perception. Someone who constantly says, I'm not good at this, or the worst always happens to me, they could be showing insecurity or pessimism. Why this lesson is important. Reading people's words is like learning a secret language. It gives you access to their inner world, to their deepest thoughts and emotions. Plus, this skill helps you connect more effectively. When you can interpret someone's words correctly, you can in a way that really resonates with them. On the other hand, it also protects you when you are able to detect inconsistencies between what someone says and what they really want to say. You are less likely to fall into misunderstandings or manipulations. It is like having a radar to detect truths and lies, and of course this practice also invites you to reflect on your own words. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, in your meditations, speak alone if your words are better than silence. So by observing others you inevitably become more aware of how you communicate yourself. In short, words are like clues that people drop in their path, and you, with a stoic and trained mind, can pick them up to better understand those around you. Seventh lesson. Emotional reactions reflect internal wounds. We come to one of the deeper and more revealing lessons. The intense emotions that someone shows are usually a reflection of something deeper, an internal wound that has not yet healed. This idea is powerful, because when someone overreacts or out of place, it is not always about what is happening at that moment, but something much more personal. Epictetus said, "What disturbs men is not the things themselves, but the opinions they have about them." And those opinions or interpretations are often influenced by past experiences, fears, or insecurities that they still carry with them. So when you see a strong emotional reaction, don't take it literally. It's an invitation to look beyond the surface. Emotions, especially intense ones like anger, sadness, or fear, don't appear out of nowhere. They're responses to something that if a person perceives a person, a loss, or a challenge, if someone reacts angrily because you correct them, maybe it's not just because of the correction itself, but because that action touched on a deep insecurity, such as the fear of not being enough or feeling judged. That's why the Stoics saw emotions as an opportunity to better understand human nature. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you want to understand the other, first understand the cause from their suffering." By observing someone's emotions, you can begin to identify what they care about, what they fear, and what hurts them. Let's see how you can apply this lesson in your daily life to better understand people. Don't take reactions personally. If someone explodes with you, remember that reaction probably has more to do with them than you. Ask yourself what could be going on in their internal world so that they react. Thus, look for emotional patterns. If someone always reacts angrily to criticism or with sadness when they are left out of something, those patterns can indicate wounds related to their self-esteem or sense of belonging. Pay attention to the context. Emotional reactions are usually linked to specific situations. What is happening around that person that could be activating their emotional response? Ask empathetic questions. Sometimes a simple question can open the door for someone to share what really affects them. For example, "You're okay. You seem upset. There's something that worries you." This approach shows interest, genuine, uninvaded. Observe how people with deeper wounds recover from emotion. Tend to get stuck in their emotions longer, while others can process them faster. This can also give you clues as to how ingrained the wound is. So this lesson is essential when you understand that emotional reactions are a reflection of something deeper. you can stop reacting impulsively and start responding with compassion. This does not mean justifying with inappropriate behaviors, but it does mean recognizing that behind every intense emotion there is a story, an experience, or a personal struggle. In addition, this lesson helps you to be more patient and understanding when you see someone lose the estribos or sink into sadness. You can remember that we are all dealing with something, as Sika said, where there is suffering, there is humanity. Recognizing this not only makes you better at reading others, but also at connecting with them from a place of empathy. Finally, this lesson invites you to reflect on your own emotions. What reactions you have that could be linked to internal wounds that you have not yet healed. The Stoics taught us that introspection is key to growing and understanding better.